In this episode of the Encounter Report, 3 net-navies bust their way onto the internet in Megaman Battle Network 1. There's Axelrod, your humble narrator, who technically did a second-plus playthrough but labeled it as semi-blind for some reason, and played it on the Wii U. Joining him is Ghost VTS, who did a second-plus playthrough but played the PC Legacy Collection, as well as Phantasmagoracat, who did a semi-blind playthrough also on the PC Legacy Collection. With all that out in the open, let's resume our bewilderment of the words load chowd. First up are battle types, and we can see some immediate differences in random encounters. Ghost VTS has a significant amount less than myself or Phantasmagoracat, and this was largely due to past knowledge and guide usage. In fact, each one of us utilized a guide for various reasons in this game. Ghost VTS already beat it before, so there was nothing to lose on his end, while Phantasmagoracat and myself used it in multiple spots to unstuck ourselves. For optional encounters, these counted the various net-navi battles that were available, as well as the battle simulator inside Dad's Net. The exception is the first battle with Skullman, who is actually a story fight to reach the end of the game. Battle locations are going to fly by. The game is effectively all dungeon encounters, so not much to see here. For combat types, we can see how fights concluded. Megaman Battle Network 1 can have some pretty brutal moments, and each one of us ran into them on multiple occasions. I was fortunate to not die on any main story bosses, but I got tripped up quite a bit in random encounters and the optional net-navies. Ghost VTS has similar circumstances, except his fights against Magic Man gave him an extra 4 deaths. Phantasmagoracat's largest troubles were to the Skullman story encounter and some challenges with the Proto-Man fight after Elecman. Phantasmagoracat was the only person to have issue encounters where they had met an unnatural end. In this case, the first one was the game crashing, where they then activated Buster Max to increase their Buster damage to 100 for 12 total fights in order to catch up. The second one was the stream reaching its conclusion in the middle of a Gutsman fight, and the last was exiting out of the game to go back to where they saved to regain their bearings. We have subtypes appearing for a brief moment to show a small amount of grinding from everyone but Ghost VTS. Money was my goal for those 2 encounters, while Phantasmagoracat grinded for money and experimenting with chips. They also partook in what was a sizable amount of off-screen battles, as their chips, hit points, and buster stats all had improvements to them between certain parts. Next up is the boss encounter time graph. On the left, we have the time, and on the bottom, each boss in the game. Each boss takes up a rectangle, and within those rectangles, the length of time it took for each person to defeat the boss on their kill attempt. For this graph, both Ghost VTS and Phantasmagoracat both stay in a similar ballpark for most fights, while I had some tough moments. My best time was against Iceman, where I beat him in 39 seconds using the Anubis chip. Ghost VTS has a couple of good times, both on Fireman and Colorman, while Phantasmagoracat has a pretty quick Magic Man time. We've also got level progression graph for each person with a small twist. On the left, we have hit point values, and on the bottom, all the bosses in the game. Each boss takes up a rectangle in the graph, and within those rectangles, we have Mega Man's hit points for each participant when that boss was defeated. While Mega Man does have levels in the game, it would be difficult to glean the actual power of the character with that method. Every HP memory gives 1 level, power up 3 levels, and armor purchases 6 levels. As far as I can tell, levels themselves don't offer anything, so hit points was the next best thing. On this graph, there's not much deviation from the pack, and in the event that it does occur, it corrects itself within the next boss dungeon. We all hit various power spikes at different times, but ultimately end up with similar builds. Each of us maxed out attack and put points into rapid. Ghost VTS bought wood and heat armor, while Phantasmagoracat bought wood and aqua armor, and I just bought wood. Phantasmagoracat and myself were also the only ones to put 1 point into charge, which was a big help on the final boss. Next up is the number of enemies per encounter, and something that is consistent with all of us are 2 enemy encounters being the highest. We also get to see the average busting level, which was the game's evaluation of how we did for those encounters. For 1 enemy encounters, it seems to be impossible to get anything higher than a 9, meaning that our averages are pretty high. For 2 and 3 enemy encounters, S rank was the highest each of us saw, which is calculated as an 11 here. I think it's very interesting that 1 enemy encounters are my highest as opposed to 3 enemy encounters, which both Ghost VTS and Phantasmagoracat both excel in the most. And speaking of busting level, here's the encounter evaluation the game graded us on for each busting level, starting with the bottom 4. A commonality here is a high average time for busting level 1, as this typically requires the fight to go on for extended periods of time. Some bosses got lumped up here, but we were all able to get a higher score on most bosses. For busting level 5 through 8, our total encounters drastically increase. With a few exceptions, many of our encounters would fall into this range. For Ghost BTS and myself, we achieved busting level 6 the most out of any other number, and that's a pretty reasonable outcome. We're both in a really good spot since the higher valuations are much more difficult to obtain, and it's not like it's possible to get too much higher than this. Right? Totally and completely wrong, in fact. Phantasmagoricat not only manages to have level 9 be the evaluation they got the most, level S is the second highest. These two evaluations accounted for 38% of all encounters Phantasmagoricat engaged in, which is a very insane number. And to wrap everything up, here's the final combined stats. In the end, we all achieved a 40% or higher encounter percent, and admittedly, for a game this short, quite a bit of encounters all things considered. One thing that wasn't discussed much was the differences between the original game and the Legacy Collection, and while we only have myself here to look at, it seems like there were little to no differences at all. And that's all we got for the Megaman Battle Network 1 Encounter Report. I hope you visit everyone's channels and social media to praise them for all this wonderful data. With another report done, it got me thinking that maybe I should adopt an ethereal ectoplasmic form to accompany Ghost BTS and Phantasmagoricat. If you got any suggestions, let me know. Thanks for watching, appreciate it, see you on the next video.